Hey guys, how are you all doing today? Hope you're doing good. It's Barb with Bows on Edge. And if you've not been here before, this channel focuses on child abuse, neglect, sex type of abuse. We get into all kinds of things on this channel when it comes to children and not being taken care of in the manner of which they should be. So the first story, I have several stories that all have to do with children who are being starved to death. That is today's focus. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get right into it. And the first story we have is about a 12-year-old boy from Utah who was found starved to death at his father's home after suffering years of suspected abuse. Gavin Peterson was found dead on July 9th, 2024, after deputies from the Webster County Sheriff's Office were called to his father's home in West Haven as the boy was not breathing and had been vomiting for days on end. So the father stated. Gavin was found on the bathroom floor by officers and paramedics who tried to resuscitate him, but their efforts were in vain as he later died at the hospital. The boy's father, 46-year-old Shane Peterson, and his 50-year-old, Shane's 50-year-old wife, who was the stepmother of Gavin. Her name is Nicole Scott, and Gavin's older brother, who was 21 years old, Tyler Peterson, have all been arrested in connection to Gavin's death. Which was the result of a prolonged pattern of abuse over the course of several years. Now, the affidavit said surveillance footage and text messages between the three family members tell the story of Gavin's miserable final days. The starving boy was fed only a piece of bread with mustard, which he apparently hated, and he was given 1/3 cup of water to drink a day and was not allowed to use the bathroom. They also talked about hitting or beating Gavin, including a pinata stick. They also talked about how the door to the child's bedroom is locked from the outside and how he has to knock on his door in order to leave his bedroom. Now, when talking about feeding the child victim, the three suspects talked about only the child's 1/3 cup of water and only giving him a piece of bread and mustard, or not feeding him food at all. All of the messaging and evidence revealed prolonged a pattern of abuse over the course of several years. Tyler texted his father to say that Gavin wasn't breathing and asked what he should do. The deputy noted that the bathroom floor was wet and the child's skin was cold to the touch. Now, Nicole and Shane reported that the child had been ill for several days, experiencing vomiting and seizures, but they did not take him to the doctor or the hospital. On the day of the incident, Nicole found the child in his bedroom covered in vomit and assisted him into the shower. And at the hospital, doctors found Gavin's body showed malnutrition to the point the child's internal organs were shutting down completely. The child's body was visibly emaciated, and home surveillance footage showed Tyler making 3 trips to a shed in the backyard while they called 911. During 2 of these trips, Tyler appeared to be carrying items to the shed. A search of the property uncovered small surveillance cameras in the shed, which he was hiding so that law enforcement didn't know how this child was being treated. Screenshots of the surveillance footage monitoring Gavin's room were found on Nicole's phone and showing the horrendous conditions the boy was living in. In most of the screenshots, the child is only wearing a heavily saturated diaper, a 12-year-old in a diaper. The child can be seen curling up on the carpetless floor of the room, which lacked bedding or blankets. Several screenshots also showed sores on the child's back, and the room appeared to have multiple cameras as the infrared lights from the other devices were visible in the screenshots. The photo also showed the door handle with a locking mechanism positioned on the outside of the room. And Gavin's mother, Melanie Peterson, said that her son was under the legal custody of his father, Shane, after she lost custody of all 4 of her children between 2014 and 2015 after pleading guilty to drug-related charges. And after completing the terms of her sentence, she was not able to regain custody of her children. Ay, 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 ay. Give me 1 second. Sorry about the dogs barking. They're going crazy right now. They're playing. Let me see. Yes, so the mother was not able to regain custody of the child. It doesn't say exactly why she wasn't given back her parental rights. But on several occasions, Gavin's mother reported neglect and abuse from Shane and Nicole after noticing her second oldest child was malnourished, and described the hard conditions she endured while under her father and stepmother's care. Nicole trapped them in the room, and the lock was on the outside, and they couldn't get out. She zip-tied them to the bed, and there was a camera, so if they did anything, if they did get out, etc., she would see it on the camera. Now, in 2019, she reported the suspected abuse to the Webster County Sheriff's Office, and authorities referred Melanie to DCFS, but at the time, the agency was closed during Memorial Day weekend. Investigators eventually interviewed her daughter. She shares with Shane and said they found no signs of physical abuse. All right, guys, I'm sorry. These dogs are just crazy right now. Anyway, they supposedly found no signs of physical abuse, which is ridiculous. They only offered therapy for the child, and physical examination was never conducted. After regaining visitation rights to see Gavin in November of 2019, Melanie noticed signs of malnutrition. The last time I saw him, I took a picture of him because he looked so skinny, she said. I wanted to take him to see a doctor. She again went to document her concerns to authorities and took another picture of Gavin in February of 2020 without a shirt on. Melanie never saw her son again after that. Gavin's mother claims that Shane and Nicole banned her from seeing Gavin again after they found out she took pictures of him. She alleges that the couple made false complaints against her and that, in turn, took all the visitation rights away from her. Although she filed the allegation, the case was dragged out by the Utah Division of Child and Family Services during the pandemic. And it's not that I didn't try, she said. No one helped me. To know he died that way, I don't know how anyone could do that to another person or a child. A neighbor said, "How did this happen right under our noses? I have more empathy for a mouse than these people did for their own child." Just hours after the hearing, the community members hosted a gathering at a local church building for a candlelight vigil, and it gives everyone a chance to say, "Gavin, we care and we are sorry." Melanie wasn't the only person who noticed Gavin was allegedly being neglected, as Jan Davis, a school cafeteria worker at Canesville Elementary School, picked up on it too. He was small for his age and quite thin. They kept his hair buzzed, and he often missed school. Jan revealed that she and a coworker would give Gavin lunch, even though the school told them not to do so because they wanted struggling families to complete a form to qualify for reduced lunch. So you were just supposed to starve a child. That's interesting. It's bad enough he was dealing with that at home, but whether or not certain paperwork is filled out or not, you do not feed that child lunch when they are at school. She said she called DCFS and school officials on multiple occasions to report her concerns, but nothing was done to help him. She said, I think school was a safe haven for him, but I just don't think we did enough for him. Gavin stopped attending school by August 2023, and for his sixth grade year, she said Nicole pulled him out of school to homeschool him. Now, a GoFundMe page had been set up to help Melanie and her family pay for Gavin's funeral services and therapy sessions to understand the tragic loss. While they await justice, the family is picking up the shattered pieces by planning the funeral service and arranging therapy sessions for Gavin's older siblings who've also suffered from abuse and neglect while in Nicole and Shane's care. They said Gavin loved Pokemon and science, and his favorite color was blue. Now, the call for answers is growing after a 12-year-old boy in West Haven died from the alleged starvation. Community members and lawmakers want to know what state workers did to help the boy. That's easy. They did nothing. One lawmaker stated that answers would be coming soon. In addition to speaking with a lawmaker, they interviewed a woman whose name was Tracy, who was organizing a protest and demanding answers. She shared that after her own issues with the CFS, she believed Gavin's case is not an isolated incident. She feels strongly that it's a tragedy and we can learn from this, and we have all the facts. Community member Sabrina Tracy said hearing about 12-year-old Gavin Peterson's story has been difficult to stomach. She said, I just sat there and thought about what he must have endured, sitting in that little room in a diaper being fed one piece of bread a day with mustard and little water. It literally made me throw up. I just said, I can't sit back and say this is frustrating. I have to take it out and do something for this boy. I want DCFS to come out from behind their curtain because up until this point, all they have said is due to privacy. They can't release any information. Tracy recounted her firsthand experience with the system when concerns over possible neglect came about in her extended family. They started keeping the kids in the house all the time. They took them out of school. And again, CPS said, well, we are doing what we can. And in Tracy's experience, it took relentless calling and reporting for months before the boys were removed from the home in question. Now, a representative, Christine Watkins, chairs the Child Welfare Oversight Panel in the Utah legislature, and she said her committee is scheduled to meet with DCFS for a briefing on the West Haven case. She said, I want to know what reports were made. Were there attempts to see this little boy or even go to the home? And when did they stop? And why did they stop? Christine felt the issue warrants meeting sooner. She said, right now, personal opinion, I think we're just at the point where we know we need to change some laws or create new ones. Christine is currently working on a bill that would allow social workers to get warrants if a child's safety is in serious question. That is, I hope that goes through. But I assume that's just for Utah. Given that Gavin died and there may be other kids in tough situations right now, they asked if anything could be done sooner. And Christine said, well, I think if they call DCFS, they also have the right to call police and they can work together. An answer points to a system Tracy knows to be broken, and she said law enforcement officers told her, even if we, as law enforcement officers, suspect abuse, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. You have to go through the Department of Child Protective Services to get that warrant. That's BS. The police should trump DCSF and be able to take those children out of that situation until CPS can drop in. And then when you talk to your caseworker, whoever's been assigned the case, I don't know why they take the amount of time they do or where the disconnect is in getting that warrant to get them out and get them safe. The school staff demanded accountability after the death of Gavin. With a criminal investigation underway over Gavin's death, questions remain about how Utah's Department of Child and Family Services handled concerns raised by several school workers. Weber School District officials confirmed that reports of the abuse and neglect were made directly to the state. However, employees who filed these reports feel they were not taken seriously enough, and educators are mandated reporters in Utah, and the Weber School District confirmed that workers filed complaints with DCFS long before Gavin died in July. Despite warnings from the district to avoid speaking with the media, 2 current employees and 1 former employee have come forward saying they can't stay silent. Now, Jackie Allred was one of Gavin's bus drivers several years ago, and when asked if she noticed any signs of neglect at the time, she said, "Not that I noticed. I know the stepmother was very protective, wanted to make sure he sat where she thought he needed to be on the bus, but the news of Gavin's death hit too close to home for Allred. She lives just a door down from where Gavin lived, where his family members were arrested. She said the allegations keep her up at night, and it haunts her because she's always thought that she was a good neighbor." Now, Jan Davis, who worked as a lunch lady at Gavin's school, is among the workers who reported abuse concerns to DCFS. Jan said that after a group of staff members tried to help feed Gavin at school, his stepmom intervened. She'd come to the school with a chipped front tooth, and we were all afraid that we had caused that. That was Gavin with the chipped tooth. Jan mentioned, in addition to herself and other lunch workers, Gavin's principal, the school nurse, a teacher, and bus drivers all filed complaints with the state. That's ridiculous. Now, there was Brindy Limpham, who helps on the buses in the district and did not know Gavin well, but organized a vigil for him. It was a heart-wrenching task, given how little she knew about the boy from his obituary. One photo, they said they knew he liked Pokemon and the color blue. It was a school picture, and it was where he was a kid. Where was he playing? We don't really know if he liked Pokemon because obviously he wasn't doing those things. As frustrations build, so do the calls and demands for answers. And Jan Davis was asked, if you could, what would you ask DCFS and of the state leaders? Did they check into it? What were their findings? And why didn't they help him? Jan tried to follow up on her report about Gavin, but was told by the DCFS hotline that privacy laws prevented them from sharing information. She feels strongly that if the school personnel report abuse and neglect concerns, they should be informed about whether these reports were investigated to hold state partners accountable. I totally agree. If you are mandated to report any type of abuse, you should have that legal right to get information on whether or not that case is being handled properly. Were the kids removed? Were they placed someplace safe? Etc. Let me know down below if you feel the same way. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do another story. Not nearly as long. Not that the first one was long, but this is just a shorter story. And this is about a dad who starved his 2-year-old to death. And that was 47-year-old Jeffrey James Exxon, who was from Kansas, will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. It's alleged that he locked his 2-year-old daughter in her room for multiple days without food and ultimately starved her to death. The judge handed down a maximum sentence of 683 months, or about 57 years, in a state correctional facility to Jeffrey. Authorities said that Jeffrey locked Aurora and her then 4-year-old brother in their rooms He got drunk and passed out for several days at a time without attending to them even once, something he would regularly do. A jury found him guilty on all 4 charges, and he was facing, including 1 count of first-degree murder committed during an inherently dangerous felony, second-degree murder, aggravated endangering the life of a child, and failure to report the death of a child. Now, on January 5th, 2021, officers responded to a 911 call regarding an unresponsive female toddler. The caller, later identified as Jeffrey Exxon, told the emergency dispatcher that the little girl had been starving herself. A 2-year-old who was starving herself. Yeah. First responders and emergency medical personnel arrived on the scene but had no chance to save the child, saying she had been dead for several days. Officers and medics on the scene reported that Aurora was cold to the touch and in rigor mortis, which is a post-mortem stiffening of the muscles that typically does not set in until 12 hours after death. The toddler was pronounced dead at the scene, and while processing the scene, police found at least 5 empty liquor bottles in Jeffrey's bedroom. The coroner, a forensic pathologist who conducted Aurora's autopsy, determined that the toddler's cause of death was marasmus, a type of protein energy malnutrition that resulted from negligence on the part of her caregiver. An investigator said that all of the crimes took place between December 26, 2020, and the last time Aurora was seen alive on January 5th, 2021. At the time of Aurora's death, Jeffrey had custody of both Aurora and her brother Theodore, Teddy. During the trial, the children's mother, I'm not sure how to say the name, Filicide Nichols, testified that after she and Jeffrey broke up, her housing situation was not well suited to having children around, so she agreed to let the kids stay with their father. But you knew he was a drunk and would spend his days sleeping away, but you're going to give your kids to that person. Prosecutors at trial recounted how Teddy told authorities that Jeffrey would lock him and Aurora in their rooms for multiple days at a time without giving them any food, and telling the kids he kept them imprisoned while he slept. Prosecutors at trial said that Jeffrey passed out in his bed for days on end. Now, others who testified during the proceedings included 3 employees from the Sheldon Child Development Center, Head Start, the preschool that Teddy attended. All 3 school employees spoke of having serious concerns about Jeffrey's physical and mental state, saying that in October of 2020, he appeared gaunt and visibly drunk when he picked up his son from the bus stop. One of the preschool employees also recalled that Jeffrey had tried to explain away his diminished physical state by saying he had been on pain medication for a neck injury and drank a single alcoholic beverage earlier in the day. Jeffrey's brother, Michael, told jurors that his younger brother had a long history of alcohol abuse, adding that Jeffrey also lied about being sober in the last 2 years before Aurora's death. An obituary for Aurora said the young girl will be remembered fondly by all who knew her and will leave a void in the hearts of many. She loved to dance and had a smile that would light up a room and the hearts of those around her. She also loved cheese and peanut butter crackers. So, guys, if you suspect child abuse, call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4A-CHILD or 1-800-422-4453 or go to www.childhelp.org. All the calls are free and confidential, and the hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's in more than how many languages? 170 languages. Wow. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Oh, another father who starves a 2-year-old to death. What the hell is wrong with people? So 26-year-old Jonathan Matthew Cheek was charged after his son was found dead in his crib in March of 2023. A medical examiner later determined the cause of death was fatal starvation. Lord. So, the child supposedly spent some time in the foster care system and was in good health while there, and before being placed back in the care of the couple, it is unclear why the child was in the foster care system and why was he released back to the parents. Jonathan pleaded no contest to second-degree murder and second-degree child abuse. He was sentenced to 24 to 50 years for the murder charge and 86 months to 10 years on the child abuse charge. The prosecutor stated this is a heartbreaking and profoundly sad case, and a 2-year-old child full of potential and deserving of love and care was failed in the most devastating way. No sentence can bring back this innocent life, but hopefully the family can begin to heal. The boy's mother, Sierra Zatona, 28 years old, has also been charged with second-degree murder and second-degree child abuse. Her trial is scheduled to begin on April 1st of this year, 2025. According to the prosecutor, the couple reported finding their son dead in his crib that day after he had starved to death. They are both being held on a $1 million cash bond, and both are facing life in prison, as they should be. So, one last story. This one's of a 6-year-old boy who was starved to death. And Anthony Martinez was sentenced to life in prison after he was convicted of multiple crimes, including murder in relation to the death of his 6-year-old son, Deshaun, an older sibling who were starved and kept locked in a tiny closet. Anthony and his wife Elizabeth Arkabeck kept Deshaun and his older brother locked up in a tiny closet that was 21 by 25 inches for up to a month. And that closet reeked of urine, and they provided little food to the children, which led to Deshaun's death by starvation in 2020. They said it was a form of punishment for stealing food while their parents slept. Anthony has also been convicted of multiple prison sentences, including child abuse and kidnapping convictions. Additionally, he received cumulative sentences of 3 years in prison for 2 convictions of aggravated assault, which may be served concurrently or credited against the time served. Now, Deshaun weighed just 18 pounds at the time of his death. That's a toddler size. During the trial, the Superior Court judge described the crime as heinous and cruel by a father who was in a position of trust to his children. It was also agreed that Anthony suffered through traumatic childhood and no prior felony convictions. Although Anthony declined to speak during the hearing, he was apologetic and wrote a letter to his children, which was read aloud at the trial by the defense attorney. In it, he said he was sorry for all oh my goodness. He was sorry for all that he did, apparently. So he says, you very consciously made choices to abuse or neglect, starve, beat your children. But as soon as you're caught and you're looking at time served in prison, all of a sudden you become apologetic. Now, the woman who adopted the surviving boy and the parents of the other 2 children gave an emotional victim impact statement. A father is the protector, provider, teacher, and the first role model in life. I am eternally saddened, Anthony, that you threw away the gift and privilege of fatherhood, and she said during her statement to the court, so much has been taken from these children, yet pieces of who they are can never be broken. As their adoptive mother, I recognize the beauty of their natural gifts, and I am here to tell you how special and unique these children are. Elizabeth's lawyer said she was born addicted to methamphetamine at birth had a traumatic upbringing and suffered from mental illness. She said her husband and mother-in-law inflicted physical and emotional abuse on her, and she felt powerless to do anything about the situation. After a visit to the jail, Elizabeth told her, "I feel more free in here than I ever did with him." That's sad. She said Elizabeth is very well. She will spend the rest of her life in prison, but feels a huge sense of relief knowing her children now live in a better place. The foster mother who took in Deshawn's siblings said his brother was so traumatized by food and eating that he would ask every 5 minutes when they would eat next, and she kept a special little lunchbox for him with snacks in it that would never leave his side. She said it had taken 3 years for one of the sisters to begin to talk, and that the other one holds to believe she carried both brothers on her back and saved them. The deputy county attorney said he decided not to show the evidence photos during the sentencing hearing because they were so disturbing. It is hard on anyone who has to see them. Guys, come on. You know, there are so many ways you can punish a child without being physical or mentally abusive. There's just no reason for it. Do me a favor, leave your thoughts down below, what you think about any one of the stories. I mean, they're all disgusting. If you haven't already done so, do me a favor, subscribe to my channel. It truly helps me out. I appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button and the notification bell so you know the next time that I upload a video. Until next time, guys, peace.